What you are witnessing now is not the creation of victory, but its arrival into visibility. Long before anything appears in the world of form, it is first completed in the world of consciousness. Every outcome you desire is first born within, sealed in awareness, and only then projected outward as experience. You must understand this clearly. Nothing external moves first. Life responds, reality echoes, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself according to the state you occupy within. The moment you accepted the idea of victory as true, truly felt it as real, the decision was made, the seed was planted, and once planted it does not ask permission to grow, it unfolds by law. You are not here to make it happen. You are here to allow what has already happened to express itself. This is where many become restless. They look for signs. They ask, where is it? But the question itself reveals the mistake. When you ask where it is, you step out of the state of having and into the state of waiting, and waiting delays what is already yours. Instead, stand still inwardly, rest in the knowing, feel the quiet confidence of someone who has already won. Not excitement, not desperation, but calm certainty. When something is truly done, you do not chase it. You move differently. You think differently. You carry yourself as one who knows. That inner shift is the signal. Reality does not respond to words or wishes, it responds to assumption. What you consistently assume to be true hardens into fact, not because you force it, but because consciousness has no alternative but to express itself. Right now, life is reorganizing. People are moving, circumstances are aligning, opportunities are forming, conversations are being stirred, all without your effort. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful to the inner victory. Do not argue with appearances. Appearances are always late. They are reflections of past states, not present truth. If the mirror shows an old image, you do not fight the mirror. You change your position. Remain in the end. See from fulfillment, not toward it. Think from success, not about success. Act from certainty, not hope. The moment you live as the person who has already received, the bridge of events activates, and it unfolds naturally, effortlessly, in ways your reasoning mind could never predict. You do not need to know how. You do not need to control when. You only need to stay loyal to the state of completion, because the win is done. What you call time is simply the delay between assumption and appearance. And that delay collapses the moment you stop questioning and start embodying. So walk today as one who has already arrived. Speak with the confidence of fulfillment. Move with the calm authority of someone whose victory is inevitable because it already exists. The win is done. It is not chasing you. It is entering your reality now. The victory never begins on the outside. It does not start with circumstances changing, people agreeing, doors opening, or visible success appearing. All of those are effects, not causes. The true beginning of every win is an internal decision, often so quiet that the world never notices it. Long before life rearranges itself, something shifts within you. A new inner position is taken, a conclusion is reached, and once that conclusion is accepted as true, the outcome is already sealed. Within you exists the source of every experience you will ever encounter. What you consistently hold as real in consciousness becomes the blueprint from which life must operate. The outer world does not initiate events, it follows instructions. Those instructions are not spoken aloud. They are felt, assumed, and lived internally. When you accept victory within, when you stop debating it and start knowing it, reality begins its slow but certain movement toward matching that inner state. Most people misunderstand this process because they look for proof before belief. They want to see results first and then feel victorious. But that is the reverse order. Inner victory always precedes outer confirmation. The feeling of success, peace, fulfillment, or achievement must be entered before the world can mirror it. When you wait for permission from circumstances, you remain locked in the state of waiting. When you give yourself permission internally, the door is already open. This inner victory is not emotional excitement or forced positivity. It is calm, settled, and grounded. It feels like relief, like certainty, like something that no longer needs to be defended or explained. When you have truly accepted victory within, you stop arguing with yourself. Doubt loses its power because the decision has already been made. You are no longer hoping, it is done in consciousness. Once this inner state is assumed, your thoughts naturally change, your reactions soften, your expectations align. Even your silence carries confidence. You do not strain or push because effort belongs to those who are unsure. Inner victory produces stillness. And from that stillness, life begins to reorganize itself. The world you see now may not immediately reflect this change, but that does not matter. What you are observing is a delayed echo of former assumptions. The present moment is always catching up to what you once believed. When you understand this, you stop being disturbed by appearances. You know they are temporary, transitional, and powerless to stop what has already been accepted within. Victory within means you have already crossed the finish line internally. Time is no longer a concern. The how dissolves. The when becomes irrelevant. You trust the unfolding because the result is no longer in question. It is simply moving from the invisible to the visible. And when the outer world finally reflects this inner decision, it feels natural, almost inevitable, not miraculous, not shocking, just aligned. Because the real triumph did not happen out there. It happened the moment you claimed it within. Nothing exists independently of consciousness. Every experience, circumstance, relationship, and outcome appears only after it has first been accepted inwardly. What you call reality is not an objective force acting upon you, it is a reflection responding to you. Consciousness is the source, the cause, and the substance behind everything that appears in your world. Without awareness, nothing has meaning, form, or direction. You do not experience life as it is. You experience life as you are conscious of it being. The same situation can bring joy to one person and despair to another, not because the situation is different, but because the state of consciousness observing it is different. This alone reveals a profound truth. The outer world has no fixed meaning of its own. Meaning is assigned from within, and once assigned, reality conforms to it. Every assumption you hold about yourself, about others, about what is possible, acts as a silent command. These assumptions operate whether you are aware of them or not. They shape your expectations, guide your reactions, and influence the events that unfold. Life faithfully follows the pattern set by consciousness because it cannot do otherwise. There is no external power deciding your fate. The deciding factor is always the state you occupy internally. When you change your state of consciousness, you do not need to force change in the world. The world must adjust automatically. This is why effort applied only to the outer level often leads to frustration. Trying to fix appearances without shifting the inner cause is like rearranging shadows while ignoring the object casting them. True change begins at the level of awareness. Consciousness does not respond to words, affirmations, or rituals alone. It responds to what you accept as true. You may say you believe something, but if your inner dialogue contradicts it, consciousness follows the deeper assumption. What you consistently feel, expect, and assume defines your reality far more than what you occasionally declare. Understanding that consciousness is the only reality brings responsibility, but also freedom. Responsibility because you can no longer blame circumstances or people as the true cause. Freedom because you realize nothing outside of you has power over your experience. The moment you accept a new inner truth, the world begins to reorganize itself to reflect it. This does not mean ignoring the physical world or denying what you see. It means understanding its role. The outer world is feedback. It is information showing you what state you have been living in. Once you see it this way, you stop reacting emotionally to appearances. Instead, you use them as guidance, adjusting your inner position accordingly. As consciousness shifts, your perception shifts. You notice opportunities you once overlooked. You respond with calm where you once reacted with fear. Your expectations subtly change, and with them, your outcomes. Life begins to feel cooperative rather than resistant, not because the world has changed, but because you have. When consciousness is recognized as the only reality, you stop chasing results and start embodying states. You become the person who already lives in alignment with what you desire. From that alignment, experiences naturally flow. Reality is not something you enter. It is something that emerges from you. And as you become aware of this truth, you step into the quiet power of knowing that every change you seek begins, lives, and is fulfilled within consciousness itself. Feeling is the silent language through which consciousness accepts an idea as real. Thoughts may introduce possibilities, words may describe desires, but feeling is what gives them life. Without feeling, an idea remains distant, intellectual, and powerless. The moment feeling is involved, the idea is no longer imagined, it is experienced. And what is experienced internally must eventually be expressed externally. Every state of being carries a feeling. Confidence has a feeling. Fulfillment has a feeling. Lack has a feeling. Waiting has a feeling. Life does not respond to what you want. It responds to the feeling state you consistently occupy. When a feeling becomes familiar, it becomes natural. When it becomes natural, it becomes your reality. This is why forcing thoughts rarely produces lasting change. You can repeat statements endlessly, but if the feeling beneath them contradicts the words, consciousness follows the feeling. Feeling is belief made tangible. It is the bridge between imagination and experience. The moment you feel something to be true, consciousness accepts it as fact, and the process of manifestation begins. Feeling is not emotion in the dramatic sense. It is not excitement, hype, or intensity. It is the quiet inner knowing that something is already so. It feels like ease, like normality, like acceptance. When you imagine an outcome and allow yourself to feel how natural it would be if it were already true, you have crossed the gateway. At that point, the desire is no longer future-based. It has been internalized. Most people remain outside this gateway because they imagine without feeling or they feel. Without persistence. They briefly touch the state and then return to doubt, impatience, or fear. The feeling must be sustained not through effort, but through familiarity. The more often you return to the feeling of fulfillment, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, it replaces the old state entirely. The outer world always reflects the dominant feeling you carry. If you feel unseen, life mirrors invisibility. If you feel chosen, life presents confirmation. If you feel complete, circumstances rearrange themselves around their completeness. The feeling does not force events, it invites them. This is why timing is never the issue. The delay between desire and manifestation is not about external conditions aligning, it is about the feeling becoming stable within you. Once the feeling of having becomes stronger than the feeling of wanting, the shift is inevitable. You do not need to visualize perfectly or imagine endlessly. One moment of genuine feeling is more powerful than hours of empty repetition. That moment imprints consciousness with certainty. And consciousness, once convinced, does not reverse its course. As you learn to move into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you begin to live differently. You react less, you anticipate less, you trust more. Your inner world settles, and that inner settlement becomes the signal that draws corresponding experiences into your life. Feeling is the gateway because it is the point where imagination becomes identity. When you feel something as true, you are no longer reaching for it, you are being it. And life, without exception, responds to being. What you see around you is never happening in real time. The outer world is always slightly behind, reflecting decisions, assumptions, and inner states that were once held as true. This delay is not a flaw in the process, it is part of the structure of experience. Reality does not instantly mirror every inner shift, but it must eventually align. What you are witnessing now is the past expressing itself, not the present truth you have already accepted within. Once you understand this, impatience begins to dissolve. You stop demanding immediate proof because you recognize that the evidence is already in motion. The moment you changed your inner position, the direction of your life changed. Circumstances did not resist, they simply had to reorganize. People, events, timing, and opportunities require sequence, and sequence requires time. The movement may be invisible, but it is precise. The outer world cannot jump ahead of consciousness, it follows it. Like a shadow, it adjusts only after the form has moved. When you adopt a new assumption about who you are, what is possible, or what is already done, the shadow must eventually change its shape. No amount of doubt can stop that process once the assumption has been impressed deeply enough. This is why reacting emotionally to current appearances can undo progress. When you treat the present moment as final, you reinforce the old state that produced it. But when you see the outer world as catching up, you remain anchored in the new state. You no longer negotiate with appearances or ask them for validation. You understand their role as delayed reflections, not final verdicts. Faithfulness to the inner state is what allows the catching up to complete itself. Each time you return to the feeling of certainty, you stabilize the new direction. Each time you refuse to be shaken by contradiction, you shorten the delay. Not because you are forcing reality, but because you are no longer sending mixed signals through doubt and fear. There's a quiet discipline required here, not effort, but consistency. Consistency in how you see yourself, consistency in what you assume is true, consistency in the inner company, conversations you allow to continue. When this consistency is maintained, the outer world has no choice but to align. Often, the alignment arrives in unexpected ways. The mind tries to predict the path, but reality moves through channels you cannot anticipate. A conversation changes, a delay becomes an advantage, an apparent setback redirects you towards something better aligned. When the outer world catches up, it does not announce itself. It simply clicks into place. This understanding brings peace during transition. You stop labeling the in-between as failure or stagnation. You recognize it as movement. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is already responding. The process is unfolding whether you see it or not. When the outer world finally reflects the inner shift, it feels natural, almost ordinary. That is the clearest sign that it was always meant to happen, because what appears effortless in form was already completed in consciousness. So remain steady. Do not rush the mirror. Let the reflection adjust in its own time. The outer world is not ignoring you. It is catching up to who you have already decided to be. A single moment of belief can open the door, but persistence is what keeps it open until reality walks through. Assumption begins the process, but persistence completes it. Without persistence, the mind drifts back to old habits, old stories, and old identities. With persistence, the new state becomes dominant, and once it dominates, the outcome is inevitable. An assumption is not something you repeat once and forget. It is a position you occupy. It is the quiet decision about who you are and what is true for you. Persistence means returning to that decision again and again, especially when nothing outside appears to support it. Not through force or tension, but through loyalty. Most people abandon their assumptions not because they are wrong, but because they look for confirmation too soon. When evidence does not immediately appear, doubt enters, and doubt shifts the state. The moment a state shifts, the direction shifts. Persistence prevents this. It keeps consciousness aligned with the end, regardless of temporary contradictions. Persistence does not mean ignoring thoughts or suppressing fear. It means refusing to let them define your identity. Doubt may pass through the mind, but it does not have to become a belief. You acknowledge it without agreeing with it. You gently return to the assumption of fulfillment. Over time, this return becomes automatic. The power of persistence lies in familiarity. What you consistently return to begins to feel normal. What feels normal becomes believable. What is believable becomes real. This is how a new assumption replaces an old one, not in a single dramatic moment, but through repeated acceptance. Persistence also reshapes inner dialogue. The conversations you have with yourself begin to change tone. You stop explaining why something hasn't happened and start assuming that it already has. Your language softens, your expectations shift. Even silence begins to carry confidence. This inner shift sends a clear signal to consciousness, free from contradiction. The outer world responds to the dominant assumption, not the occasional thought. A fleeting doubt cannot undo a deeply rooted state. But inconsistency can slow the process. Persistence removes inconsistency. It stabilizes the signal. When consciousness receives the same assumption repeatedly, it accepts it as fact. This is why effort often feels exhausting while persistence feels steady. Effort tries to make something happen. Persistence allows something to unfold. One strains against resistance, the other dissolves it. When you persist in assumption, you are not fighting reality. You are instructing it. Persistence reaches a tipping point. The assumption feels so natural that questioning it seems unnecessary. At that moment, the win is already sealed internally. The outer world is simply completing the process. When results appear, they feel earned, but not through struggle. They feel inevitable. Because they were not created in the moment of appearance, they were secured through persistence long before. To persist is to remain faithful to the end without needing reassurance. And faithfulness sustained over time is what seals the win. Most people live toward their desires, measuring progress, counting distance, and watching the clock. This approach keeps fulfillment permanently in the future. To live from the end is to reverse this movement entirely. It is to begin where you intend to arrive and let life reorganize itself around that starting point. When you live from the end, desire stops being a destination and becomes an identity. Living towards something carries effort, tension, and anticipation. There is always a sense of not yet. Living from the end carries ease. The question is no longer how to get there, but how life will express what is already assumed. This inner shift changes everything because consciousness does not move toward fulfillment. It expresses what it already is. To live from the end means you think, feel, and respond as the person who has already received, not pretending, not acting, but inwardly accepting it as true. Your reactions soften because there is nothing to chase. Your expectations change because the outcome is no longer in doubt. Even challenges are interpreted differently, not as obstacles, but as part of the unfolding. This does not require visualizing constantly or controlling every thought. It requires alignment, alignment between what you desire and how you see yourself. When the inner identity matches the fulfilled state, the outer world adjusts naturally. You are no longer reaching, you are allowing. Many struggle with this concept because they try to live from the end while still checking the middle. They imagine fulfillment, then immediately look for evidence. That movement collapses the state. Living from the end means you stop consulting appearances for confirmation. You trust the inner decision more than the external snapshot. When you live from the end, your inner conversations change. You no longer ask if it will happen. You assume it has. Your mind becomes quieter. Your actions become more intuitive. You stop forcing outcomes and start responding to inspiration. This responsiveness is not random. It is guided by the state you occupy. Time also changes its meaning. When the end is assumed, waiting dissolves. You may still experience sequence, but you are no longer emotionally invested in speed. You understand that what is already yours cannot be delayed, only revealed. Living from the end does not mean withdrawing from life or ignoring responsibilities. It means engaging with life from a place of certainty rather than hope. You show up fully, but without desperation. You make decisions from confidence, not lack. This shift alone alters the trajectory of events. The line between inner and outer disappears. The world begins to mirror your assumption in ways that feel natural and unsurprising. Conversations align, opportunities appear, circumstances adjust, and when the result manifests, it feels familiar because you have been living there inwardly all along. To live from the end is to trust consciousness as the cause and let experience be the effect. It is the quiet mastery of beginning where others are still trying to arrive. The truth woven through this entire message is simple yet powerful. Nothing begins outside of you. Every victory, every shift, every breakthrough is decided id first within consciousness. The moment you claim the end as real, feel it as natural, and remain loyal to it, the outcome is no longer uncertain. It is inevitable. The outer world does not create your success, it reveals it. By holding the inner victory steady,